Chapter 9. Enlightened. Waking up to the smell of bacon, I groan. I ache all over. I don't know if it's from sleeping on the sofa or if I have a hangover. Either one is possible. Or it could be a combination. Opening my eyes, I see Chrissy's sweet, smiling face above the plate of crispy bacon, egg and beans she has been waving under my nose. "Eat it while it's hot," she purrs. "Thanks," I moan, watching her set down the plate on the coffee table. I sit up and rub my aching left arm, but this does little to help. I slept better than I thought I would, but I don't feel rested. I don't know what I dreamt about. I think I dreamed about making out with Chrissy on my bed, but I can't be sure. "I also made you a coffee," she says. She seems very cheerful, a little too cheerful if you ask me. "Aren't you hungover?" I yawn, swinging my legs round. "Very," she says, seating herself on the table next to my steaming plate and mug. Luckily, my coffee table is very strong and sturdy. It can cope with people sitting on it, and as an added bonus, the top is solid wood rather than glass. It could end badly if it wasn't. "Really? You're hungover? You could have fooled me." But I don't say anything. Instead, I lift the plate and cutlery onto my lap and start to cut the bacon. I notice gratefully that she has not opened the curtains. This is good for several reasons. I only hope she has not noticed my morning wood, as my mum used to call it. It's embarrassing how unembarrassed she used to be about it, insisting it's completely normal and not to sweat it, but that's a whole other issue. Shoveling a forkful of warm bacon, beans and egg into my mouth, I wonder how she could not have noticed. My jeans are still unfastened. I could fasten them up, but I don't want to draw unnecessary attention to it. I know I've known her for as long as I can remember, but I still get embarrassed about her seeing things like that. I guess that's normal, huh? Chrissy is sat slightly sideways on the table, and she crosses her legs towards me, balancing her own plate on her lap, holding it with one hand. She inserts forkfuls of food into her mouth with the other. That's part of the reason why I love her so much. She's very comfortable in my company, and for the most part doesn't appear to be embarrassed by the same things that embarrass me. She does get embarrassed sometimes, of course, and seeing her cheeks fill with that soft pink blush while she casts her eyes towards the ground is the cutest thing ever. "I must have got good and drunk," she says, swallowing her mouthful audibly. "Do you remember going to bed?" I don't know what I remember about yesterday, and I'd rather not try to think about any of what happened. I'm sure our evening was uneventful, and all we did was get happily drunk. I look up, meeting her eyes, and slowly shake my head. "That's the way I like it," I say. I insert another forkful of bacon into my mouth and chew thoughtfully, watching her. She seems different somehow. Underneath all the cheery happiness there is something wrong. I can see it in the tight stress creasing her forehead, the way her shoulders are unnaturally taut, and it's in her eyes too. Maybe it's a cover, the chirpiness, and she doesn't want to talk about whatever it is that's bothering her. As we continue to eat, I notice fresh bruising on the underside of her wrists and stop chewing. "Are you okay, Chrissy?" I frown, trying not to spit half-chewed bacon all over the place. She looks up at me momentarily, still looking deeply troubled. Her cheery smile does little to conceal it. "Mm-hmm," she mumbles, mid-chew herself. She does look pretty okay, if you discount the weight on her shoulders for a moment. I swallow the food down and gesture towards her hand with my empty fork. "So how'd you get that bruise on your wrist?" "I have no idea." She sighs heavily, setting her empty plate aside. Wordlessly, she holds up both forearms for me to see. She has a matching pair of bruises, and given their location, there is one obvious possibility that would explain how she got them. I've seen bruises like that on Charlie often enough. I know what it means. A horrible, sick feeling settles in the pit of my stomach, and I set aside my breakfast, suddenly losing my appetite. I thought the fuzzy memories I have of kissing her on my bed were a dream. "Girl, you look like you've been held down," I choke out. I think I'm going to be sick. I scowl at my plate as I think hard. I remember her moaning while I was kissing her neck, but why on earth would I be holding her down? And what was I thinking? Why was I even kissing her in the first place? "That's what I thought," she frowns, confirming my worst fears and rubbing her wrists. They really hurt too. I recall her initial question and realise she was probably trying to find out what happened in her own subtle way. Then I remember how I responded, and the nausea rises in my chest. Although it may well sound totally innocent under other, more normal circumstances, I can't change the fact that I sounded like a rapist just now. "That's it," I say, my eyes wide with horror. Tonight I'm getting drunk alone. If the world is lucky, I'll do it a favour and make it the last time ever. Chrissy looks horror-struck, catching the dark undertone to my words. No, she gasps. She moves over from the table into my lap, sitting sideways on me, and puts an arm around the back of my neck. Her only reaction to the fact she is now sat on my crotch is to wiggle her butt slightly. My emotions apparently have no effect on the blood flow to my crotch. Maybe the blood vessels have just sealed up, trapping it all in my manhood. I know what you're thinking, she says. Somehow I seriously doubt that. But you listen to me, mister. She gently prods her finger into my chest, her tone highly patronising. I got drunk with you willingly, and I will take the consequences of that. My frown deepens as I try not to be irritated by her tone, whilst attempting to work out if she just called me a rapist, as she tries to distract me by idly running her fingertips across my chest. What? I gasp. I mean, maybe you gave me these bruises, but it doesn't mean anything else happened, she says. Her eyes are on my chest, her fingertips still drawing goosebump-inducing circles. I shake my head slightly, trying to shake out the cobwebs and feeling rather confused. It's too early in the morning for this. I think she just called me what I thought she did, though. And yet she looks quite content, no longer bearing the weight of the world on her shoulders. Sighing deeply, I grab hold of her fingers, and she looks up into my eyes. She has a strange, dreamy, almost far-away look in her eyes. What was it Ryan said yesterday? She looks at me like a love-struck teenager. I think that was the essence of it, but I didn't believe it till now. I've never noticed her looking at me like this before. How long has this been going on for? Our heads are already really close together, and I'm not aware of having made this decision. Nor did I notice her moving in closer, but suddenly her lips are locked onto mine. Her lips are soft and warm, her kiss full of slow passion. Her chest is pressed against mine, so hard I can feel how her breath is coming faster and her heartbeat is running wild. Heat prickles all over my body as my own pulse goes into overdrive, and I release her fingers, my hand moving up the side of her face as I return the kiss hungrily. Then suddenly I remember myself and pull away, breathing hard and wondering if I'm still asleep. This would be a lot easier to deal with if I didn't want her so badly. Oh God, Chrissy, I pant, feeling horrified, overjoyed, and intensely aroused all at the same time. I'm sorry. I physically shift her away from my crotch and tug the centre of my t-shirt between my thumb and finger so that the bottom puffs out and resettles it to cover my unfastened jeans. Chrissy gasps when I suddenly move her and then watches me. Running a hand through my hair, I meet her eyes for a moment before looking away. Staring at the carpet, I try to collect my scattered thoughts. It's okay, I get the message, she smiles. I know she's smiling, I can hear it in her voice. The guys were so right. It wasn't just Ryan, they were all sure she is hot for me. I just didn't see it coming. I should never have doubted them. But why she's making a move now, I don't know. Your timing is impeccable, I say, exhaling slowly in a vain attempt to bring my racing pulse under control. It seems like my life is just in self-destruct mode at the moment. All bets are off. Anything could happen, and it probably will. She giggles childishly, her fingers going to her necklace, and they begin to nervously run it along the chain as she casts her eyes towards my feet. I'm sorry, Mike, she says, sounding like she means it. I don't know what came over me. Suddenly Eve's insane, illogical jealousy about Chrissy makes total sense. She's been able to read the two of us like a book for God knows how long. I must have been the only one blind to what's been happening right under my nose. I need to clear my head. Can you pass the coffee? I say. Sure, she gasps, reaching across the table for my cup. Thanks. I take the cup from her and sip from it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you in an awkward position. She watches me drink, her fingers still at the pendant on her chest. With Eve, I mean, and everything. We really need to have a conversation, doll, but I can't deal with this right now. I glance at her face. God, I hope that didn't sound cold. Chrissy gets to her feet and strolls over to the window, her fingers still busy with her necklace, and turns her back on me, making a small gap in the curtains with her fingers. I know things are complicated for you. It's okay, she says. I drain the cool contents of the cup, half wishing it was something stronger. So look, I know it's likely I gave you those. I set the mug on the table and hope she knows what I'm talking about without me having to say it aloud. But I don't remember what happened, I promise you that. Her back is still to me as she faces the curtains. Believe me, whatever happened, I was a willing participant, she says. For some reason I find her whispering voice highly erotic in a way that I never have before. I really don't know what's gone into me. I thought I stopped acting like a hormone-driven teenager when I reached my early 20s. Right, sure, I scoff, rolling my eyes, because willing women always need to be held down. She doesn't say anything more. Getting to my feet, I tuck myself in and fasten up my trousers, wishing away the wood. It's inappropriate and annoying. Then I go up behind her and touch her shoulder. Hey, I say softly, are you sure you're okay? Chrissy starts slightly and half turns towards me with a smile. I guess she was lost in thought. The smile seems obviously faked. Look, I'm sure I don't have to tell you that if a woman gets so drunk she can't remember what happened, then clearly she wasn't in a state to consent to anything, I say, moving my hand down her arm towards her wrist. She nods in agreement, her eyes following my hand. Turning her wrist over, I observe it more closely, gently rubbing the tips of my index and middle fingers across the finger-shaped shadows there. My touch as light as a feather for fear of hurting. Whatever happened between us last night, I whisper. Chrissy gasps at my touch, but it appears to be a slightly delayed reaction. Sorry, I apologised, wishing I could wipe the bruises away. It's okay, it just tickles is all, she smiles, meeting my eyes for a moment. But it's nice, please don't stop. I bite my lip, unsure how to respond, and try not to smile. Giving her a thrill wasn't my intention. Inhaling deeply through my nose, I quickly regret it, having got a lungful of her sweet peaches and lilies smell, and let out a slow breath. I know that stuff, by the way, she breathes in her whispery voice. I was just trying to make you feel better. Her green eyes are so beautiful, the way they sparkle and shine with emotion. I could look into them forever and never get bored with the sight. Thanks, I smile, absent-mindedly tracing my fingertips across her bruised wrist again. She casts her eyes away from mine somewhat shyly, a smile creeping onto her lips, and she bites down on it. Her breathing becomes more pronounced the more I run my fingers over her wrist in this way. I glance down at her chest to watch her breasts rise and fall rapidly underneath her blouse for a beat, running my tongue over my lips. I appreciate the sentiment, I add, my voice a little husky. I want to pull her into my arms and push her away all at the same time. It's hard to work out which I want to do more, and it's very confusing. All this is more than I can take. So, are we okay? I ask, watching her eyes travel down towards my crotch. Her eyes are bright and twinkly, her cheeks very slightly flushed with colour. Of course, she smiles brightly, meeting my eyes again. I still my fingers and look down at her upturned wrist again. You know, everybody is going to ask how you got those, I breathe. Trying to worry about the bruising on her wrist is hard when all I can think of is how much I want her. Please, for the love of God, don't tell anyone I gave them to you. People would draw all kinds of conclusions. It's a detail best kept between you and me, if that's okay with you. I don't even want to think about the media getting wind of it. You trust me, right? She purrs, looking into my eyes with a wide smile. Her eyes have a predatory glint in them now, and get me wondering what she's thinking. I murmur, nodding slightly. I know what you want to do. I can see it in your eyes. I can't even tell you how much I'd love to do it. I'll deal with it. Your name won't even come up, she says, still grinning. I nod, feeling slightly relieved, even though it's pretty much the response I expected from her. Thank you, I pant, trying not to sound out of breath, and retreat back to the couch to sit down. Listen, whatever happened last night, I'm sorry about the bruises. I know. She is still watching me with that look in her eyes, and it's beginning to scare me a little. I've never seen her with that look before. It's okay. Chrissy slowly steps towards me before bending over and setting her hands on my knees. I look into her eyes, licking my lips nervously until a movement at her chest catches my eye. The fingers of one hand are at the very low neckline of her blouse, and as soon as I move my eyes, she moves her hand away. I get a beautiful view right down the front of her blouse and realise that was her intention. Oh my God, I whisper, averting my eyes and trying to catch my breath. Chrissy straightens up, moving my breakfast aside and sitting down beside me. I watch her draw her own plate onto her knees and she carries on eating. Girl, sooner or later you're going to destroy me, I say, shaking my head. She giggles in response to this, swallowing her mouthful and cocks an eyebrow. Oh, I don't know about that, but I'll tell you what, you destroying me sounds like a good time. Shocked laughter escapes from my lips and I try not to imagine it happening. That is so brazen of her, assuming she meant it how I took it. I didn't think it was possible, but I swear I just got harder. I don't even know what to say to that. I bring my fist up to my mouth and fake cough into it, hiding my grin. Never mind what's gone into me, what's gone into her today? She looks into my eyes again, her still hungry, and smiles. Consumed by the desire to kiss her again, I fight against it and bite down on my sore lip again instead. The sooner she leaves, the better, for both our sakes. Having finished her breakfast now, she sets her empty plate aside. That's okay, she purrs, shifting closer and casting her eyes down into my lap again. Only this time she follows her eyes with her fingers. I hold my breath, watching her fingers brush across the top of my thigh, stunned into paralysis. Her fingers stop just short of making contact with my manhood, and then she withdraws her hand, grinning at me. Closing my eyes, I breathe a sigh of relief. She's trying to kill me, that's what it is. I'm going to die. If not because my heart stops, it'll be because of the bottled up jizz. Either that or my dick is just going to explode under the pressure, and not the orgasmic type explosion. It'd be ugly. I feel highly aroused, my heartbeat increasing in tempo even more. I wonder if it's possible to reach the peak of ecstasy from the gentlest of touches. Don't take this the wrong way, I pant, my voice all husky, but I need you out of my house, not right now. The smile fades a little, but the look in her eyes doesn't change. Okay, I need a shower anyway, she breathes. Make sure it's a cold one, won't you? She laughs in response to this. I watch her get up and move round the couch towards the door, feeling relieved in a way I can't describe. I like it hot, she says, staring into my eyes again. I wonder what she's going to do now, but she doesn't do anything. She's not normally like this. Maybe she's still drunk from last night. Did we drink that much? I stand up and move towards her, ready to shuttle her out. Try not to get in any more fights, huh? She says, her eyes moving over my face, a slight frown on hers. You know I don't look for it, Dolly, I say. She murmurs. Chrissy gently traces her fingers and eyes along my scratched jawline before following up with her lips. She plants a quick, gentle and fleeting kiss there. It takes all my willpower to stop myself from taking her face in my hands and kissing her. Will you be okay? She questions in her usual breathy voice. Only if you stop teasing me, woman, I chuckle throatily. She bites down on her smile in a really sexy way and casts her eyes towards the floor, a pretty blush filling her cheeks. I don't think she has ever looked sexier. I wonder if she knows how smoking hot she is. I'm not the only one that needs a cold shower, huh? She purrs. Yes, thank you for making sure of that, I laugh. She moves out of the room and towards the door, turning again in the hallway. I was just trying to distract you, she says seriously. A worried frown crosses her face. It's okay. I gently touch my hand against her upper arm in a fleeting, reassuring gesture. I appreciate it. You are very distracting, I think. She looks happy with this and embraces me in a hug. I lean forward slightly, pushing my hips backwards to avoid pressing them against hers, hugging her back. Don't be like that, she says. Chrissy slides one hand down onto my bum and pulls my hips forward. Swallowing hard, I feel myself pressing against her in an inappropriate way and quickly pull out of the embrace. It's nothing personal, I explain hastily, licking my lips. She doesn't look worried or horrified or embarrassed or anything like that. In fact, she's smiling. She's toying with me and loving it. Well, two can play at that game. I take her chin gently between my thumb and forefinger in a firm grasp and move my face close to hers. Just when it might seem like I'm going to kiss her on the lips, I give her a peck on the cheek. Before I have pulled back again, she moves her lips towards mine, but I press my forefinger against them. Save that for me, I whisper, still breathless. Bastard, she whispers back. Sliding an arm round her waist, I kiss the top of her head, smiling. When I withdraw my arm, my hand brushes the side of her breast and she gasps. Did you do that on purpose? She scowls. Her tone and expression make me feel like I've done something wrong. Do what? I question, frowning. You touched my nipple, she gasps, still staring daggers at me. Her attitude is such a sudden 180 that I wonder if she's jerking me around. All the same, I feel my face flush with embarrassment. I'm sorry, I gush, slightly wide-eyed. Chrissy holds the offended stare for a moment longer before choking out laughter. Got you? Yep, I sigh, shaking my head slightly. Then I slowly trail my fingers up and down her arm in a way that I know will drive her crazy. I watch her shiver a little in response. The smile slips a bit and she bites down on her lower lip, a giggle escaping. "You're giving me goosebumps. Stop it," she cries, batting my hand away. I bite my own lip and repeat the gesture, enjoying her reaction to it. "All right, I'm going," she giggles again, looking at me, wide-eyed. "Stop." Grinning, I let her arm go and watch her reach for the front door. "Take care now," I smile, retreating into the lounge doorway. She gives me one last shy smile before slipping away. I let out a long, slow, deliberate breath in an attempt to calm myself somewhat and then make my way upstairs. The shower is hot and refreshing. Squirting a dollop of shower gel into my palm, I lather my hands together and then rub the frothy bubbles all over my muscular arms, chest and torso. The steamy water washes it off almost instantly. Did all that stuff really just happen with Chrissy, or did I dream it? Idly, I begin to stroke myself in the place that has been yearning for attention since I woke up. It normally goes away by itself after a while, but there is no chance of that happening now. I have gotten so worked up. The blood is soon pumping harder through my veins again, just like before, and my breath comes in shallower gasps, my hand moving faster. I don't even need any extra stimulation, that's how mad this is. Speaking of being mad, I hope Chrissy isn't going to be mad at me later. Remembering the way her chest rose and fell like oxygen was on the brink of becoming extinct, and the way her blouse neckline fell down, really revealing so much cleavage, makes me even hotter. She wasn't even wearing a bra. I don't know how I failed to notice that earlier. Her chest bounces more when she doesn't wear one. I like that. It's not pervy, is it? With a deep moan, I remember how delicious her lips felt when we kissed. She was hot for me, there's no denying that. I know I need to make things up with Eve, or at least try, but I can't feel bad about that right now. I need to do this first. I mean, I really need this, like an essential physical necessity. I can imagine going further with Chrissy. Kissing her more deeply, kissing her neck, hearing her moaning and gasping, maybe even gasping my name in the heat of passion, wanting me to touch her in ways that I never have. I can also imagine how good it would feel to have her smooth, soft hands touching me like I am doing right now. Only she would be doing it way more gently, and yet it would feel way more exciting and erotic. Chrissy came pretty close long ago, and it was both exciting and terrifying at the same time. Even though it was a bad idea, I really wanted her to do it. Remembering how the touch of her fingertips felt searingly hot as they softly grazed my inner thigh, so close to it, I feel like I'm on the verge of losing my load. It was certainly a possibility at that moment earlier, which is scary and strange all at the same time, but I don't fight it this time. The relief afterwards is immediate. I sag against the back wall of the shower, tilting my face up into the stream, while endorphins flood through my body and my breathing and heart rate slowly return to normal. Squirting more shower gel into my hands, I wash away the sweat and clean up. I refuse to feel guilty about this. It's no big deal really, is it? Nobody will ever know anyway. Turning off the water, I climb out of the shower cubicle and wrap myself in a towel. I have no idea what I'm going to do about Chrissy, how to deal with her. I don't know if we can continue on like everything is fine. Things are not fine. Maybe I should just not see her for a while. I need to try and fix things with Eve. That's my first priority. If they can be fixed, that is. After dressing again, I rub my hair with another towel, heading downstairs and pick up the pieces of my phone off the floor, reassembling it. Selecting Eve's number from my phone book, I call it. Her phone rings on the other end of the line and rings, but nothing more. She doesn't pick up, but then I guess I didn't really expect her to. The voicemail activates. Eve. I clear my throat. Evie, I'm so sorry. I feel kind of lost for words. Nothing I say is really going to make the slightest bit of difference, but I have to try, I think. I know it's not enough, but I have to say it. I pause again, wondering how long I have to talk before it cuts off. We really need to talk. If you need time, I will understand. Just know that I sigh deeply, feeling awful about what happened. I love you, I finish. Hanging up, the hopelessness creeps up on me again, just like yesterday. Maybe some people would say I don't need to apologise, that she owes me one, because it was justified. But if I don't say sorry, I'll feel like even more an arsehole than I already do. Even with the apologising, I can't feel any hope that things between us will ever be repaired. Picking up my plate of cold breakfast from beside me, I eat the remains of it, trying to ignore my heavy heart. I don't want to feel like this. It doesn't even achieve anything. What's the point? When I'm done with the rubbery egg and stiff bacon, I collect both plates and dump them in the kitchen sink. Cleaning up can wait till later. I haven't seen what's-her-name since the day before yesterday. Charlie's friend. She lives here too, but I have hardly ever seen her. Maybe that just shows how much I move around, how little time I spend here. I wonder if she's just busy or whether she's avoiding the house. After what's been going on, I guess that wouldn't surprise me. What with the media, there's probably still lurking out in the street. It's enough to put anyone off. Or maybe she's camera shy. Cassie, that's her name. Catching sight of myself in the hall mirror, I gaze at my face, realising I look awful. Damn, look at that. Bruising and scratches mar my features, and unless I'm looking too closely, there are bags forming under my eyes. Running a hand through my hair, I exhale and pat myself down to check I have everything before I leave. I don't really want to go out. I'd rather just crawl into bed and stay there, but I have things to do. Peering around the edge of the curtains in the lounge, my heart sinks. It's Sunday. Don't those guys ever take a day off? There I was, hoping maybe they didn't care about me today. At least it's sunny and I can legitimately hide behind my sunglasses. I take a deep breath before going out the front door, anxiety knotting my stomach. Paparazzi flashbulbs pop in my face as I walk down the street, my hands shoved deep in my pockets, and reporters try to ask me questions. I think it's mostly Paps, actually. There are only a couple of reporters trying to question me, and one of them is being shadowed by a TV camera. I'm with Sky News, the TV guy says, keeping pace with me easily. Can I have a few words, Mr. Miller? I glance nervously over my shoulder at the gaggle of Paps that are still behind me. I notice that his news camera woman is also behind me. What do you want to talk about, pal? I say, my pace not faltering. What have you got to say about what happened yesterday? He says. I'm now close to the end of Ryder Avenue and stop walking, not wanting to take this on to the other busier street. Does he have to be so cryptic? It was a nightmare day, and all a bit of a blur, to be honest. I'm not sure what he wants me to say. The weather was nice. I smile tightly into the news camera, which is now in front of both me and him. What about yesterday specifically? I'm glad of the sunglasses. They can't see in my eyes. It's comforting. Let's start with what happened Friday night, he says. No. I purse my lips and move to walk away. You know, that assault on WPC Farrell is the worst, most serious attack on a policewoman in Norfolk ever, the reporter says. Jesus, he makes it sound like I tried to kill her. Instead of leaving, I turn back to face him, horrified at what he's suggesting. Look, that was an accident, I gasp, reeling off the story Maria's been going with. If that's what she believes, it's good enough for me. I didn't attack her. I can see from the look on his face he finds that hard to believe. He seemed to be having a lot of those, he remarks, his tone and expression conveying a little malice, but I'm sure that's just coincidence. I shake my head, feeling slightly riled by his attitude. I don't have time for this, I sigh. Anybody'd think you just don't like women, he goes on, his tone quite casual, especially after what happened with your girlfriend yesterday. Grinding my teeth, I take a moment to breathe in an attempt to quell my rising anger. Look, for starters, what happened on Friday night is under investigation by the police, and as a suspect I am unable to comment on any of it at the moment, I say, spouting the sort of thing Kirsten would say on my behalf. And second, I stop talking and try to remember what else he was trying to rile me with. I'm still struggling to absorb it all, and each day it seems to be getting worse. We know you had an ugly fight with Eve yesterday, he says after a silent pause. What do you have to say about that? Oh yeah, that. It has been alleged that you hit her, Mr. Miller, he goes on. I lick my lips and nervously scratch the back of my neck, wincing. I can't talk about that, I whisper. He scoffs but doesn't say anything else. I glance at the TV camera lens nervously and feel all their eyes on me. I really have to go, I whisper. Don't worry, your lack of denial tells us everything we need to know, the reporter says before I can leave. I don't know what you want me to say, I sigh, exasperated. This was a mistake. How did I get bogged down with them in this mess? I thought I'd agreed with myself that I wasn't going to speak to them today. So much for that plan. I know you struck her, Mr. Miller, he says, his tone hard. There's proof. Before I can think how to get away from them, he pulls out his phone. After fiddling around with it for a second, he turns the screen towards me. "Here, take a look," he says with an encouraging nod. I stare down at the phone, unable to see the screen very well through my shades, and don't take it from him. Of course they are proof. How could I forget? "Go ahead," he urges, still holding it out to me. I finally take it from him, removing my sunglasses so I can see it properly. He has brought up a news report, on the Sky News app, of course, topped with an ugly photo of Eve. "That was taken last night," he says, watching me. "She looks worse than I remember." The flash has really lit up her face, showing it in all its bruised and swollen glory. It's hard to look. Eve's cheek is puffy and bruised, the place where my ring cut her scabbed over, her eyes red and watery as her face shines with tears, her eyes fixed on the ground in front of her. "Oh God," I gasp, quickly handing it back to him. I stare into space with slightly wide eyes. Everyone has already seen this. It's horrible. I did that. What does that make me? I notice that he looks surprised for some reason, as if I'm supposed to react some other way. Swallowing hard, I blink the haze out of my eyes. "It makes me sick," I whisper. "But not sick enough to control yourself," he mutters under his breath. Irritation bristles again, but I can't let him provoke me. It's probably what he's looking for. "What do you want me to say?" I exclaim, opening my arms out wide. My arm protests, making me regret the gesture, and I wince, touching my tender elbow. Glancing between the TV camera lens and his face, it's scary how serious his expression is. "Look, I would give anything to take that back," I profess in earnest. He looks at me thoughtfully, hardly missing a beat. "You know, Mr. Miller, that's very interesting. As I recall, you expressed a similar sentiment following that incident last weekend where you broke a young lady's nose in a nightclub brawl." I briefly close my eyes, my eyebrows pressing down so hard over my eyes it hurts. Why does everybody keep bringing that up? "Listen, that was a totally different thing. Kelly's injuries were horrific and completely accidental. I was so mortified. My girlfriend's jealousy just got out of hand and—" I suddenly stopped talking and lit my lips, remembering everything I say is on the record. Jesus, I'm an idiot. That's not the best thing to say on camera, blaming you like that. He looks thoughtful for a second. "So, if that was totally different to what happened with your girlfriend and accidental," he says slowly, "one could safely conclude that you punched Miss Mackenzie on purpose, yes?" I stare at him, horror-struck, my mouth hanging open. "I didn't say that. That's not what I meant. He's misinterpreting my words, isn't he? Did I really suggest that? Oh my God. It wasn't a punch. I did not punch her," I gasped defensively. "But it was intentional," he goes on. "No," I cry. "I didn't." Biting my tongue, I'll stop talking before I make things any worse. He's right, I did do it intentionally, but not for the reasons he thinks. "What, you didn't mean it?" he suggests. "Until next time? And you won't mean it then either? How many times have you hit your girlfriend before, Mr. Miller?" I glare at him, feeling myself getting riled up again. He's baiting me again, isn't he? "Never," I gasp, my extended index finger in his face. "Look, pal, you've got a lot of nerve." You can't keep dodging the blame. He meets my stare, his jaw set. Are you man enough to face up to him? I'm this close to decking him, and I can tell from his manner that he knows it too. Glancing into the camera lens again, I remember she's still there, recording every word I say, as if I could really forget. He's asking me to condemn myself publicly. Well, at this point, I really can't see that it will do any damage worse than what's already been done. "All right," I say, my voice sounding rather gravelly. Looking into the TV camera, I clear my throat. I did it. I squeeze the arm of the sunglasses between my fingers, wishing my hands weren't shaking. I hit her. I can feel myself welling up and bite down on my sore lip in an effort to stop the flow coming and let my eyes drop to the pavement so that maybe they won't see. "I'm a monster," I add, my voice coming out in a whisper and threatening to break. The silence around me right now is very painful. It feels like everyone is holding their breath or something. I fight to swallow the lump in my throat and resist the urge to hide behind my sunglasses again, looking up into the camera again. "If you see this, Evie, I want you to know I'm sorry." I can hear my voice breaking and wish I could stop it happening. I know I've already said it, but it's all I've got. This whole thing is public. I can't change that, so I may as well try to make the best of it. I squeeze my eyes shut, the emotions welling up inside me uncontrollably, and feel a tear I can't hold back run down my cheek. "There's your soundbite," I rasped, looking at the reporter again. He has the strangest look on his face. In fact, he almost looks sympathetic, but there's disbelief in there too. I can't even describe what it looks like he's feeling. Maybe he's trying to figure out if this is genuine. I am an actor after all. I do this professionally. But the idea that people could think I'm faking this hurts. But I'm sure, when you quote me on that, you'll conveniently edit out the last part just so you can portray me as the brute you want me to be, I say, unable to keep the bitterness out of my voice. And, by the way, I held up my bandaged wrist. She came at me with a knife. That's why I did it. It was the last resort. Brushing my thumb across my cheek, I slipped my sunglasses back on. "Thank you, Michael," the reporter whispers softly as I start to leave. As I get closer to the city centre, the people I pass whisper and stare. Either that or I'm just paranoid. Either of which is entirely possible. Not really feeling brave enough to go into any of the stores, I decide needs must and brave a co-op. Standing in front of the newsstand, sunglasses in hand, I feel very conspicuous and wonder if I should even look. The page one splashes are just as expected, but it's still hard to see it there in black and white. Although I was still clinging to the vain hope that yesterday was in fact a nightmare and never actually happened. "Michael Miller, rape arrest," screams a Sunday tabloid headline. The accompanying photo looks very much like an amateur job, but it still clearly shows a policeman kneeling on the back of a man who is laid face down in the street. The man on the ground's face is visible in the photo, and I'm pretty sure it's me. With my heart in my throat and a horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach, I begin to read the accompanying article. Hollywood star Michael Miller was arrested in Norwich late Friday night outside popular night spot Rhinestone. It begins, indicating the page where the story continues inside. With trepidation, I open the newspaper to the relevant page and continue reading, too gripped by it to care who might be watching me. The unnamed 19-year-old victim was subjected to a brutal attack where she was violently raped outside the nightclub. She is reportedly a student at the University of East Anglia and was at the club with friends, although officially under-21s aren't allowed into the nightclub. It's not known if she has identified Miller as her attacker, but he allegedly fits the description of her assailant. Miller was seen fleeing the scene of the rape, and when police officers caught up with him, there was a confrontation. Several witnesses were present. Miller allegedly leapt on a policewoman and struck her in the face. The other police officers present were able to restrain and arrest him, but not before hitting Miller with pepper spray to help subdue him. The injured policewoman has been discharged from hospital where she was treated for severe facial fractures. I stop reading, too sickened to continue any more, and close the paper. There is more, though, a lot more. They really have gone above and beyond with this, getting all the details straight away, and the angles. I wander further into the shop in a bit of a daze. That's horrible. What's worst is that people are going to read it and they'll believe it too. How long before I start getting death threats? It feels so much more real reading about it in the papers. Waking up in holding cell and getting the third degree from the detectives felt very real, of course, but the press is different. Being condemned by the media is a terrible fate. It always twists in the favour of the victim too, and rightly so, except this time it's me that's in the hot seat. There it is, the ultimate slur on my character, catalogued by the press for all time. People will move on when the press eventually shut up about this and move on to the next scandal, but they will never really forget. I'll select a small tub of E's favourite ice cream from the freezer, knowing how she likes to eat it when she's upset, and head towards the checkouts. I mean, when was the last time you read about innocent man arrested for X crime? The thing that bugs me the most is that once those 4 words have been strung together, nobody will forget it. Even though I'm innocent, well, I'm 90% sure about that, but my point is the rape arrest will stay with me forever. Hugh Grant's arrest back in 1995 for soliciting that prostitute was notorious at the time, and if you mentioned it to almost anybody today, they would instantly know what you were talking about. It's not as serious as my arrest, but I know that that kind of notoriety is in my future, and the thought makes my blood run cold.